What do you want to tell Joe Byron right now?
I want to, who?
Joe Byron.
Oh, hello, Joe Byron. And what have you been doing? And I see turkeys out here.
Fuck your life.
Oh.
Bing bong.
Bing bong. That's me as well. I'm your grandfather. And
Yo, Ariana Grande.
I'm Grande.
Come to Coney Island, take a spin on a cyclone. I miss you.
Oh, yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back to It's 420 Somewhere. We're going to talk about Mexico and then we're going to talk about Florida. So we're going to go back to the story that we've constantly been checking in on and seeing how messy everything is, and that's Mexican efforts in legalizing marijuana, where the Supreme Court had decriminalized a long time ago, and the lawmakers have been trying effortfully to get something passed, and there's been a lot of roadblocks along the way. Something passed the Senate, or a legalization bill passed the Senate a while ago, and then it went to different chambers, and within those chambers there were some revisions that had to be made that made the bill no longer workable for the larger whole of the Senate. So it seems they have finally kind of gotten over those issues. The legislation will be up for a vote within the coming weeks. So it does seem like this time is for real. We might actually see some Mexican legalization happening by the end of this year. So that's good news all around. One of the things that people are worried about is that still after possessing over 200 grams of marijuana, you are liable for arrest. So there's still a criminalization factor in it if you go above that limit. But that is always kind of the marijuana advocates' problem is these bills never go far enough. But it's a start, and we'll see where this goes. Second, we did not expect, of all places, of all battlefields, that Florida could be the next place that could potentially decriminalize all illicit drugs. But that is the case now, where a new bill has been introduced by a Democratic state senator that would essentially decriminalize all illicit drugs. And that's a big step. I don't know how easily this will pass. I do think that Republicans are coming around and seeing this as a much more popular opinion. However, all drugs are much different than marijuana stances, whereas I think now the kind of status quo Republican stance on marijuana is that we should legalize it, but in a skeletal way, not in a full social equity way like Democrats want. When it comes to drugs, or when it comes to all drugs, it's a little bit different because it requires much more of an acceptance that the war on drugs, which was a Reagan Republican stance and kind of a huge part of his legacy, was a failure. And that's not something they would easily accept. So it's going to take a while, and it's going to take separating it from the Reagan history of the whole thing in order for them to get behind that. All that is to say, this Democrat bill that is coming out in Florida is really promising. And again, with all of these bills that get introduced, they don't necessarily get passed, but it puts it into the consciousness and makes them more normal. So this is cool to see in Florida, of all places. Thirdly, I've been doing a lot of research in therapies, psychedelic therapies. I did the video on ketamine therapy, which, by the way, I got a comment on it, which is extremely fascinating. I'd love to talk to this person. If you're listening, if you're watching right now, I'm gonna read the comment now. Jeremiah L says this: I had a very bad ketamine infusion therapy experience. I started having a panic attack, foaming at the mouth, and had trouble breathing. My body was almost totally paralyzed. I could barely speak and begged them to stop. It took several hours after for me to be able to gain enough control of my body to walk, and felt it affecting my body until the next day. My ketamine experience traumatized me and further degraded my trust in medical professionals. That's definitely a sobering account of what ketamine therapy could potentially do. I had a much more glowing review of the whole thing. Not that I have taken it, but there was a lot of optimism and excitement in the air for ketamine therapy. And so this goes to show that it's not a perfect thing, that bad experiences can still happen. Again, I would love, Jeremiah L, if you're listening, I would love to talk to you and kind of interview you about this experience, get some more details about it. But then back onto the optimistic part of everything, at least in psychedelics. There's been some positive pre-clinical trials for a new DMT effect that could essentially help those who have suffered from a stroke. Now, this is a big deal for one main reason. Most of the therapies and most of of the effects that we have seen psychedelics do for us has been mental health. And this would take it out of that category and put it into a broader health scope. And that is really, really interesting. That's really amazing. And it makes sense because, again, what psychedelic trips do is it affects your neural pathways, and that's exactly what the problem is with stroke patients, is their neural pathways are kind of damaged. I got all of this info from a YouTube channel called Psychedelics Spotlight. It's a pretty cool YouTube channel. I kind of like what they're doing. And this is one video that they talk about this specifically.
For each hour that a stroke is left untreated in a human, it causes a person to lose about as many neurons as they would in 4 years of natural aging. And this actually makes it the leading cause of disability in adults. So if Algernon can reverse this with DMT, then it would be a game changer for millions upon millions of people. Dr. Rick Strassman, advisor to Algernon and author of the book DMT the Spirit Molecule, said this: "These exciting in vitro data provide further evidence supporting the use of DMT in stroke, and strongly suggest that low doses and short exposure times are feasible."
So that's something that we'll definitely keep our eye on. Apparently they have studies happening starting next month, so we will certainly be looking at that and are eager to see how that comes out, because that would be pretty game-changing, I think. And that's all for Monday. We'll be back on Wednesday with more stories. We'll see you then.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a